Nobody has lived, well, except the squatters for probably 10, 12 years.
I've seen a few comments about these jade trees and that you guys in the United States actually pay a bit of money for these things, but they are so common here in South Australia and they grow like crazy.
Look at these four. Calm down. Oh, number 5.
Oh, hello. How are you? Do you know if anyone is living in that house?
Nobody has lived, well, except the squatters.
I was wondering.
Nobody's lived in that house for probably 10, 12 years.
Wow, and it's just been left like that.
Yep, it's still connected.
So you still see lights on and stuff?
Every so often.
Wow.
The next door neighbour next door.
I'd spoken to him. It looks very abandoned.
It is. Told the council nothing's happened. His mother was there on her own, and
Oh, okay.
when she passed away,
The lad that, well, he was a lad, he's probably about 50 now. We all knew Helen and she died.
Oh,
She
okay.
died.
Right. What I do is I go around the neighbourhood and I clean up properties. I'm just going to get the front yard looking better because that's the biggest deterrent for squatters is actually the front looking like someone's living there.
Yeah.
Well, look, you wait. In a few days, that thing's going to look like someone's living there. You have a good day. Hello, everyone. My name is Aiden, and welcome back to this week's free yard transformation video. And if you're new to the channel, I'm so glad that you found your way here. You are in for a real good time. Now, while I was driving around my community this week, I had spotted this property, and to call this place overgrown is a bit of an understatement. This street was actually really well looked after. All of the neighbours and everyone else on the street had really nicely maintained yards. And then there was just this place which was just sticking out like a sore thumb. Everything in this yard was just being consumed by this tall, dry grass. If you set a match and threw it into this front yard, it would have just probably gone up in flames. So this was quite a fire hazard as well. And even the nature strip, which was out the front of the property, was getting quite a bit overgrown and looked like it hadn't seen a tidy up in quite some time. And then you should see the driveway at this place. This driveway was just being completely consumed by all of this tall brown grass. This stuff was growing out of any crack that it could find. And then there were just a lot of weeds that were just popping up all throughout the driveway and down the sides as well. There was also a massive tree in this driveway that was not supposed to be here that was growing through the foundation, and a half destroyed gate which looked like it needed to be put back together. There were quite a lot of strange items at this property. There were also 2 big paintings laying in the driveway, but that was just the start of what I found at this property. This place was just so overgrown, and as I was walking to the front door to see if anyone lived here, the front door was just already wide open and it was so messy inside. I didn't go inside, but I could tell that this is probably being used by squatters or has been at some point. And then this area next to the front door where there was a massive garden bed, it has just been completely consumed by grass, and everything here was just so overgrown. This whole area just needed a massive reset. And then heading back to the front of the property, you could see that there was a huge tree here to the right of the house. And this tree was slowly encroaching onto the neighbour's property and needed to be cut back. This tree was also blocking one of the main paths and needed to get a massive prune back. It looked like this place hadn't seen a proper clean in quite some time, just for the sheer amount of spider webs that I ran into while I was here. There was also a humongous jade tree here which was getting so big that the fence around it was slowly bursting and breaking. So I went to talk to a few of the neighbours to see what was going on with this property, and both of the neighbours had confirmed that there was an old lady that was living here. She had passed away about 13 years ago, and this place has just been left like this to decay basically. They had also said that they had seen squatters coming in and out of this place so many times, and at night time some of the lights would still be on here, so the electricity was still being turned on at this place. I'm not sure if the owners knew or not, or maybe the squatters were paying for it. I don't really know. But it was definitely a little bit creepy while I was cleaning up this place for the couple days I was here, and the doors were just wide open. I didn't know if anyone was actually here or not, if someone was going to come out and say something to me. So hopefully now they don't get as many squatters, because it actually looks like this place might have someone living here now that the whole yard is completely reset and back to normal. But I can't wait for you guys to see all the before and afters of this one, so stick around to the end to see all of those. And if you enjoy these types of videos and the work that I do, the best way that you can support me is to just like this video and hit the subscribe button. There's also, I think, a hype feature now. I don't know what that does, but some people have been saying they've been hyping the video. I think that helps it be shared more on the homepage. Again, thank you so much for all of your support, guys. And even if you just watch the video, I'm beyond grateful for that. So thank you guys so much again. And I will stop yapping on now and get to the video. So sit back, relax, get a coffee, get a tea, get a water, and I'll see you guys in the comment section. See ya. So this right here, this is actually a mulberry tree. And this has probably come from birds because they love feasting on these berries and pooing the seeds out everywhere. So these things are shooting up like crazy all the time. But mulberry trees, when they're young, can actually grow over 1 meter a year. So these can get pretty out of control pretty fast if you don't get onto them early. So what we have behind me here, this is actually one of Australia's most iconic native trees. This is called a wattle tree. Australia has over 1,000 different types of species of these. They're called acacia. This is a golden wattle by the looks of it. And wattle trees help prove the nitrogen in poor soil, so they're very, very good to have around. Unfortunately, this thing is probably growing here by accident. I'm going to trim it back a bit and see if it's just growing through a crack in the foundation. If it is, I'm going to try and get rid of it, as it's not going to be good for the neighbours. But if it's doing no harm, I'm just going to give it a prune back. Okay, so this is actually growing through a crack in the foundation. So I'm going to cut this thing back as much as I can. What an interesting painting. It's actually quite nice. I think whoever lived here either painted this or bought this locally. It looks pretty fresh. But I'm going to put these paintings around the back just because I don't want to throw any of this stuff out, just in case it's quite sentimental. So these baby seats for the car actually look like they're in pretty good condition. I'm just going to go hide this stuff out the back, just again in case it's their property and they don't want it thrown out. Oh jeez, that was close. Oh my god. Oh, there's I can see spiders right next to my face. So we've actually got two plants here that look quite similar. The first one that I was trimming, this is actually called a creeping boobiala. This is an Australian native ground cover, but what happens when these don't get trimmed, the bottom stems end up going woody and it gets lifted up off the ground and can actually become a bush, just like this has. And then behind it, which is growing through the fence, this is actually a rosemary bush. I'm sure you guys all know what they look like. They are a very hardy, drought-loving plant, as are most of the things that are still green in a lot of the properties that I'm dealing with. But these can actually live up to over 30 years old if they're treated properly. So this fence is actually falling over because of the jade tree that is behind it. That is a monstrous jade tree with humongous trunks which are pushing on this fence. So I'm not sure how much luck I'm going to be able to have getting it back. This gate is extremely flimsy, so I'm just going to try and move it back a bit so we can clean up behind it. Even with gloves on, this prickly lettuce is so spiky. Have to be very careful when touching this stuff. You pretty much want like double layer gloves because I can feel these prickling me through these, and these are good gloves. These bins look like they haven't been cleaned in years, and redbacks love to hide underneath this area. So I'm going to clean this all out and put the bins out the front to be emptied. I just found a photo. I'm guessing, oh, it's very cute, little border collie puppy. I'm guessing this was probably the owners when they lived here. Don't know how old this would be now. Trying to find a date on it. Nah, I can't find anything. I'm just gonna leave this in the letterbox, just in case they do check it. it's still a little bit strange that the door is just completely open to this place with stuff everywhere. I've actually tried shutting the door multiple times, but the lock doesn't work at all. So, this massive thing that is growing up through the roof, this is a rose bush. I don't want to destroy the roof, but we're going to get rid of these roses before they keep growing up, because these are quite prickly and quite old. Looks like someone's stolen the pedals. So I'm probably gonna just throw this away. Okay, so we've got some slightly alive lavenders over here. I'm going to be trimming off all of the dead branches. They're not going to look that great, but there is still some greenery on one of the sides of a few of these. I'm not sure if that one over there is completely dead or not. If it's completely dead, I'm going to get rid of it. If it's got some growth on it, I'm just going to trim it back until the growth. This one is completely dead. So this one's also completely dead. This one is still alive. Looks like it's just flowered and all of the flowers have died. So this ground cover, which is taken over a lot of the area and some of these plants, this is called a salt bush. You find these in a lot of neglected areas and side strips in South Australian roads. They thrive in this heat and dry environment. And these salt bushes can actually extract salt from the soil and store it in their leaves. So kangaroos and other animals love eating these leaves because they taste nice. And then over here, this plant, which is being eaten up by the saltbush, is called a hakea. This is an Australian native, and these actually have seed pods on them that don't get activated unless it's extreme heat. So these can last for years without dropping any seeds. But we're just going to trim this thing back and get rid of all the saltbush because I think it is coming from that big patch over there. So I'll leave a bit of it because it still looks nice and there's a bit of greenery here, but I'm going to try and get rid of most of it from other areas. So what we have here and here and there and going a little bit over there as well, these are called cotton lavenders. They're not actually a true lavender and they have bright yellow button flowers on them when they flower. But this plant was actually used to repel moths and other insects because of its scent. And if you crush these leaves, they have a very, very strong herbally scent. Can you hear that? That's the magpies. There's a lot of them in a tree opposite me. Somewhere in there making a lot of noise. Just watching around looking for some worms just in case. So this fella up here, I don't know if you can hear that, but the magpies are going crazy today. This tree right here that is behind me, this is a bottlebrush tree. If you've seen some of my other videos, you may have seen one of these. When they're flowering, they have beautiful bright red flowers, and birds and pollinators love these trees. So what I'm doing there is I'm just cleaning up all of the bottom branches which shouldn't be growing from there. The reason why you always trim off the bottom of these things when they're looking like that most of the time is because you do not want the energy from the tree going to this part of the plant. You'd rather it be going to the main trunk and to the leaves up top. And then these things end up growing onto the pathway as well, and people can get hit by them. So best to not have them, and especially if they're next to a walkway. So this what I've just trimmed behind me, this is an Australian tea tree. As soon as you cut them, they smell very herbal and very strong. And these magpies behind me are having the time of their lives. Anyway, this bush is an Australian native and is very, very hardy. Just like, again, most of the plants are going to be in these types of properties to be able to survive. And then over to our right over here, this big tree, this is actually called a privet. And the birds love spreading the seeds from this. They eat the berries and they spread the seeds. But privets are actually very bad for some people's asthma and for hay fever and allergies. So gotta be careful with these things if you are sensitive to stuff like that. But I'm gonna give this thing a massive prune back because it is also growing onto the neighbour's side of the property. Time to get this pathway back. I don't know how long this thing's been growing, but it has completely taken over this area. It's like a jungle in here. This here is called a nandina, and it's growing out of a few cracks in the ground. There's probably one planted somewhere nearby, or the birds have dropped a seed in their droppings. But these end up turning a very beautiful red color. But unfortunately, we have to get rid of these because they are not supposed to be here. They're in the middle of the walkway. I've just spotted one of our little magpie friends that's pretty close over here. He's just looking for some worms amongst all the shrubbery now that he can see in there. So I'll just give you a little peek. Oh, there's actually two. One, it's been a bit loud. and then 2 over here. So I think this one behind me that's making a lot of noise is a very young magpie, and I think he wants some food. And I'm assuming that that's the mum or the dad.
Look at these 4. Calm down. Oh, number 5.
Making a burger here, and actually a tiny piece fell out, and one of these got a big chunk of meat, and now they all think that they're entitled to my food. Look at them. Looks like this was an old lavender bush. You can smell it. Alright, so behind me here is a humongous jade tree. This thing is actually breaking the fences around it. And we have a couple trees that are next to it, like this one. This is a Chinese elm. These are quite common in South Australia, and these things can live up to over 50 years old if you treat them properly. We also have another one on that side, and then there's a big rose bush which is growing in between everything as well. So my plan is to try and cut this jade tree back as much as I can and separate it from all the other plants that are here, and also try and save the fence a little bit. So I've seen a few comments before about these jade trees and that you guys in the United States actually pay a bit of money for these things, but they are so common here in South Australia and they grow like crazy. You've probably seen them in a few of my videos before. I'm not going to chop any more from this side because otherwise all the pressure from the other side is going to come forward. So I've left a few big trunks there going through the fence just because they're supporting the fence a little bit. Otherwise this thing is going to be tumbling forwards because of the pressure from behind it. So we'll get to that afterwards and get rid of some of that pressure. Okay, now, no more fire hazard in this front yard. Oh my God. Oh mate, you gotta go somewhere else. Look what I just found hiding in the scrubs. This is not a creepy crawly, but if you guys don't like mice or rats, don't look, but it is a little baby here. I've seen a few mice already running out the front of this place, but not a little baby like this. Oh, hey. Oh, he's very frightened. Oh my God. Okay. He just jumped off my hand and went right here. Come on. All right, so he's hiding in there. Hopefully the mum or the dad comes back because I don't want to see this little fella get hurt. Okay, so this plant here, it's kind of hard to identify because there's not many leaves left, but from the bulbs and how big they are and the leaf shape, it looks like a crinum lily to me. And with a lot of lilies, you can really be hardy and pull these back and give them a massive prune and a clean, and they'll just keep coming back as long as these bulbs that are in the ground are healthy. And this one looks very healthy. It was just covered by a lot of stuff, so it didn't have any room to grow. And then behind it here, we have a foxtail fern. And this isn't actually a true fern. This is actually more in the asparagus family, but it's called a foxtail fern because the leaves look like puffy foxes' tails, as you can see. But that also needs a big prune. There's a lot of dead stuff in it. So we're gonna clear up all this stuff and then make our way that way. So this plant here that is taking over half of this garden bed, this is called an autumn sage. These come in all different types of colored flowers. They are beautiful, they grow really fast, they have a very herbal scent if you crush the leaves, and they also flower a majority of the year. And another thing is, if you prune these things back, they actually flower more. So let's give this thing a big prune and find out where it's coming from. Okay. So now I figured out where it's coming from. It is just planted in the garden. So let's give this thing a big hearty trim back because this is very established. All right, so this plant here that we've just tidied up, this is called a chocolate lily. This is called a chocolate lily because on warmer days, you can actually smell a bit of cocoa coming from the leaves. Oh, hello. Magpie friends just checking up on us. But you'll find these things planted a lot in the bushlands, and Indigenous Australians used to actually eat these tubers. So we have another Chinese elm here. These were similar to the ones out the front. These things, like I said, get spread very easily by birds and it's just randomly coming up out of the ground here. Not supposed to be here. Let's get rid of this and then trim the rest of this jade tree and then power sweep this area.